morning from Mission Control Houston, and welcome to our coverage today of the departure of the 5th HTV Japanese cargo vehicle here on NASA TV. You're looking inside of the International Space Station Flight Control Room here at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Teams monitoring the final stages, getting ready for the departure of this cargo craft. Inside the room, they are led by the same team that oversaw the arrival of HTV several weeks ago. The flight director position today is Royce Renfrew, standing up there in the white shirt. There at the blue shirt at the Capcom position, Japanese astronaut Koichi Wakata going to be serving as the voice communication link between the teams here on the ground and the crew overseeing this final operation. The primes today for the release of the Japanese HTV craft are Japanese astronaut Kamiya Yui, a flight engineer with Expedition 45. He is joined inside of the station's cupola at the robotics workstation by NASA astronaut Kjell Lindgren. The vehicle, which launched back on August 19th and arrived on August 24th, delivered almost 5 tons of supplies to the International Space Station, including water, spare parts, and a number of experiment devices and hardware, including one external payload, bringing up just over 9,500 pounds of cargo to the back when Expedition 44 was currently on board. But today, though, the vehicle already been unberthed from the Harmony module. That happening several hours earlier today. We have a quick video as that was unfolding. This is sped up. The vehicle unberthed from the Earth-facing port of the Harmony module, where it's been attached since late August. Unberthed and maneuvered by robotics controllers here on the ground, controlling the space station's robotic manipulator system, the Canadarm2, which is going to be releasing the HTV vehicle in just about 18 minutes from now. HTV-5, the 5th Japanese cargo flight to the International Space Station, the first one all the way back in September of 2009. This one again arrived back in August, and this unberthing happened earlier this morning at 6:12 a.m. Central Time, 7:12 a.m. Eastern. The vehicle at this point loaded up with trash and other excess parts, ready for disposal when HTV makes a fiery re-entry through the Earth's atmosphere. But the unberth coming successfully several hours away. Over the past couple of hours, the robotic arm has been maneuvered into its release attitude, and standing by at the robotics controls now, JAXA astronaut Kamiya Yui and NASA astronaut Kjell Lindgren. The sun just beginning to rise on the International Space Station as it crosses over the northern Pacific Ocean. Again, that release is scheduled to come at 10:20 a.m. Central Time this morning, so just about 16 minutes and change from now. After its release, the vehicle will activate its thrusters about 1 minute later and then begin to do a pair of departure burns, moving it away from the International Space Station. And then just a little bit after that, will begin its first descent maneuver, another one coming about an hour after that release, and then all of that setting up for the eventual deorbit scheduled to take place tomorrow. 3 deorbit burns will take place starting at around 9 a.m. Tomorrow on Tuesday, with the final deorbit coming with the vehicle re-entering over the Pacific Ocean and burning up at around 3:30 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday. So all of that still ahead for the unmanned robotic craft, which delivered about 5 tons of supplies to the International Space Station, now packed with trash and other items marked for disposal, as HTV will be making that fiery re-entry, incinerating itself and its cargo while it passes through the Earth's atmosphere, again over the Pacific Ocean tomorrow. But for now, the vehicle in its release attitude, the station itself also in that release attitude. Royce Renfrew pulled the team just about 7 minutes ago, getting a final go, no-go from all of the teams, all the systems here in Mission Control Houston, and all of the partners and control centers around the globe. The HTV control team with the Japanese Space Agency out at in Tsukuba, Japan, overseeing all of the phases of this vehicle since its launch from the Tanegashima Space Center, again back on March 19th. It launched on the H-2B rocket, ascended flawlessly, and was into orbit and to the International Space Station after a quick 5-day rendezvous, showing up on August 24th. Since then, the crews on board have unloaded the nearly 5 tons of supplies, including one external payload, which is currently attached to the exposed facility on outside of the Japanese experiment module, known as CALET, the Calorimetric Electron Telescope. It's going to be searching for signs of dark matter and other high-energy particles, looking for things like the origin of cosmic rays, looking to tackle some of those big unknown questions out there still in astrophysics. Joins other payloads like the alpha magnetic spectrometer on board the space station, 2 technology demonstrations or technology projects, hoping to help us better understand our solar system and beyond. A number of technology demonstrations taking place on board the station, not only for things like that, but also demonstrating the technologies that are going to be necessary to take humans even further out into our solar system, testing a lot of that there in the space-based environment, being the International Space Station a great platform for doing that. And it's vehicles like HTV-5 that are able to continuously deliver those science payloads along with all of the necessary supplies, food, fuel, water, things of that nature to the expedition crews to continue supporting humans in low Earth orbit. If you're keeping track, this November is going to mark 15 years of continuous human presence aboard the International Space Station, a very big milestone and a very big moment in time for human spaceflight. For now, though, we are just about 12 and a half minutes away from the release of HTV-5, again completing its several-week stay at the International Space Station. As you can see, the Earth passing by in the background, an orbital daytime now for the 6-man crew on board and this unmanned Japanese vehicle. The station still crossing over the northern Pacific, just about 12 minutes away from release. So just about 10 and a half minutes away now from the planned release of HTV-5 from the International Space Station. The vehicle packed with trash and other items that will incinerate along with it once it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere tomorrow. Japanese astronaut Kamiya Yui running point at the robotics control station inside of the uh, International Space Station's cupola module, joined by NASA astronaut Kjell Lindgren. The pair were responsible for grappling the vehicle once it arrived back on August 24th, and are now going to ultimately be the ones to say farewell and send it on its way today, just about 9 minutes, 50 seconds away from the planned release time. We're under 9 minutes away from the planned release of HTV-5, targeted to come at 10:20 a.m. Central Time this morning, 11:20 a.m. Eastern. In just about 5 minutes, the space station will transition into what's known as an attitude hold, maintaining a constant attitude, locking in place for the eventual release. Upon release, HTV-5 will slowly drift away, activating its thrusters scheduled 1 minute after the release. And then after about 5 minutes of free drift, initiating that departure maneuver at around 10:25 a.m. Central. HTV will execute 2 departure maneuvers within about 10 minutes of each other, moving it well away from the International Space Station and setting it up to basically just begin descending towards its re-entry through the Earth's atmosphere. Again, the final deorbit burns will come tomorrow on Tuesday, September 29th, the first one right around 9 a.m. Central Time. The vehicle itself eventually targeted to descend and burn up in the Earth's atmosphere at around 3:30 p.m. Central tomorrow. So just crossed the 5-minute mark now, away from the planned release of HTV-5. Targeted to come at 10:20 a.m. Central Time this morning. And the vehicle delivered almost 5 tons of supplies to the International Space Station. Definitely one of the larger vehicles in the fleet currently carrying cargo up to the orbiting laboratory. The vehicle itself having both a pressurized and an unpressurized section, very much like the commercial vehicle, the SpaceX Dragon, able to carry external payloads, and an unpressurized section for installation on the outside of the International Space Station. So not only bringing up supplies and experiment equipment for the crew on board, but also bringing up experiments exposed to the vacuum of space for additional research. HTV-5 delivering a new electron telescope, going to be searching for through high energy particles, taking data searching for the origins or evidence of dark matter, also the origins of cosmic rays that already installed out on the external portion of the space station over on the external platform outside of the Japanese experiment module. Also on board, though, with this vehicle was just over 8,000 pounds of pressurized cargo. Among that, over 3,000 pounds of crew supplies, basically food, other items like clothing for the crew on board, about 1,900 pounds of vehicle hardware, spares, and other items. Among them was a new galley rack, basically a new a rack, the International Space Station using telephone booth-sized racks, basically enclosures where they can store all of their experiment hardware, all of their life support systems, things of that nature that line the walls of all of the pressurized modules. HTV-5 actually delivered two new ones, one a new galley or a new kitchen basically for the International Space Station, able to consolidate all of their various water dispensers, food heaters, things like that into one area now. Also delivering a new payload rack able to accommodate a number of different research projects on board the station, both of those being installed by the crews on board. HTV-5 also delivering over 2,700 pounds of what we call utilization, basically hardware and samples for ongoing experiments with the station. As many as 250, usually over that, experiments running for every 6-month mission that is typical for these astronauts on board. Over 1,700 investigations completed so far in the space station's lifetime. Over 80 countries around the globe contributing to these experiments. So HTV-5 delivering a lot of work for the Expedition 45, 44 and 45 currently on board crews. And getting ready to say farewell today, though. We are 1 minute 45 seconds away from that planned release. Now under 1 minute away from a release of HTV-5. And now under 20 seconds away from the open of the window for the release. And now standing by. This of you right down the business end of the space station's robotic arm. You can see still attached to HTV-5, standing by for that release. The window now open.
Face to ground too, so that you're on a loop.
Shall we copy that? At this time, we would like you to stand down on further actions. And we see you.
Copy, we will stand down.
And we see you in a good config at this time.
And I concur, we have a capture blue.
We see that.
So exit procedure. Copy, we are standing down. That's right.
Station Houston on 2 for Chell. At this time, we would like you to move the hot backup switch to backup in lab workstation.
Okay, this is Kimia. Hot backup work, lab workstation to backup.
Good copy.
Yes, and backup complete right now. RWS status in lab backup.
We copy that, Kimia. Thank you.
And just for SA, the status in the cupola RWS status is also backup.
We copy that, Chell. That's expected.
And Koichi, if you said something, we were kind of moving around, say again?
Yeah, we saw cupola backup, cupola workstation in the backup status, and we see that on the ground, and that's a good config.
Okay.
So the two crew members on board, Kamiya Yui and Chell Ingren, reporting they got a break message from the space station's robotic arm. So the team's down here on the ground working through some quick troubleshooting steps, getting them back into a good configuration for the release of HTV-5. So for right now, the crew on board standing by for the release. This team's here continue a couple of quick troubleshooting steps, again just getting them back into a good configuration.
At this time, we will like you to move the cupola RWS back to active.
Okay, copy, that's in work. 2 cupola RWS is active.
We see that, Shell. Thank you.
So again, the crew on board and the robotics officer here in Houston registering a break command from the space station's robotic arm, delaying the release of HTV-5 for a little while. They've reconfigured the robotics workstation inside of the cupola, where Japanese astronaut Kamiya Yui and NASA astronaut Kjell Lindgren are standing by for the release. For now, they're working any additional troubleshooting steps. The lighting window for this release still open for another 33 minutes, so there will be ample time for this HTV, this unmanned cargo craft, to be released. But for now, just making sure that attitudes and everything else are checked out correctly before proceeding with the release of the vehicle, as they continue to just work through a couple of steps. But for now, obviously, the release delayed a little bit. But we're going to continue to follow along and give you the updates as they come, and obviously monitor for the ultimate release of this vehicle. NASA TV will be switching its coverage at the bottom of the hour to a special Mars announcement coming out of NASA headquarters. That switch coming at 10:30 a.m. Central Time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Our coverage here of HTV release will continue on the NASA media channel. So for those following along, if you switch on the public channel, if you switch over to the media channel, you'll be able to continue following with today's release activity. But again, just a reminder, that switch coming at the bottom of the hour in just about a minute in change from now at 10:30 a.m. Central Time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. For now, though, we're going to continue to monitor HTV-5 as the teams troubleshoot a couple of quick items and get this robotic arm primed and ready for release.